Welcome to the HOPCAST, where we invite you to the world of digital marketing. So let's get started for this episode. Good morning, everyone listening out there. Or is it morning?
I think it's now afternoon. It's been a long day, but yeah,
it feels like morning here at the HOP headquarters in Dubai. And welcome to the first episode of the HOP podcast, or HOPCAST as we have framed it.
Super exciting.
Really exciting stuff. It's a new podcast we're launching at Home Performance that I hope you will like and follow here. We did a pilot a few weeks back. That's live on our website, About Us, under our career page, where we talked about the employee benefits.
Yeah, definitely go take a look if you're looking at wanting to join us. Please, also links are somewhere down here, I'm sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, please take a look.
And that at that episode, Warren, you were asking the questions and I was giving the answers.
Changing it up.
And today it's the other way around. You're in the hot seat and you're going to be asked difficult questions. Hopefully you can enlighten us with your wisdom. The theme of this podcast is to focus on one subject per episode and hopefully get you as a listener an opportunity to dwell down and learn more about that specific subject. The subject today, and I'm going to check, it's e-commerce Unveiled, your blueprint to launching a successful online business.
Sure, a bit of a mouthful.
Yes, that's an ambitious title, and I hope we can live up to it. And there's a reason why I am asking the questions, and Warren, you are giving the answers. And maybe you can just tell our listeners, what did you do before you joined us at HOP?
Thanks, John. So before I joined HOP, I was a Chief Marketing Officer for a number of years here in the Middle East for a omni-channel retail brand. And before that, I was in South Africa with about 8 e-commerce brands, growing them over the time of period from startups to being sold. And then a bit of experience in the UK with online and e-commerce. Yeah.
Exciting stuff. So I think we have the right guy here to help us today, dwelling down into e-commerce. So let's say you're thinking about making a side hustle, you want to start a different business, you want to earn that extra money, and e-commerce might be the right way to go down. But where to start? How to start selling your product, services, or goods in the most efficient way? Well, the framework, the foundation you need to start with is having an actual store to sell it from. But since we're looking at e-commerce, it's not a physical store, it's a digital store. So you actually need to have an e-commerce. And there's so many different CMS and platforms to choose from. Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, to name a few. So what do you think, Warren, how to go about choosing the right platform for your business?
It's a good question to start, because that's where you really do need to start out. This is your storefront, as you mentioned. So this is, instead of having a retail store, this is your where people will come to interact with you. Now, to choose the right one is a very difficult question. They all have their pros and cons. So there is not one size fits all type of approach with the CMS platform. You really need to see what is it that you're wanting to achieve. You've got things like Shopify. Shopify is a great beginner platform. It can go quite advanced, but it's easy to set up. It's quite scalable. There's Shopify Plus now, which is also a great product. The challenges can be quite expensive, especially because if you in the Middle East, for example, you have to use a third-party payment provider, so that adds an extra cost because you still got the transaction fee with Shopify. In other parts of the world, they can use Shopify payments. The other challenge is it's quite restrictive. In other words, you can't customize the store. You can buy plugins, which is also a great benefit. There's almost every plugin, and you can get going very quickly. But you can't customize the store if you've got a very unique product or something that you want to achieve specifically with your Shopify store. So at Shopify, if you're a startup, very easy. You can get going over a weekend almost. The other two that I quite like, because there's so many of them, as I say, you really have to do your research on depending on your business. But the other two, you mentioned Magento, and the other one I like is BigCommerce. Now, Magento Community is a good option. It's very scalable. It's very customizable, but the challenge you would need is probably an in-house dev team, or be able to find a permanent resource that can really help you manage and maintain your Magento store. But the benefits of that is that you can customize it to almost anything that you want. The challenge of customizing anything to is that it has to be maintained, and it's hard. And then if you lose that dev resource, having somebody else coming in, it takes a bit of a handover and a bit of a challenge. Then you've got BigCommerce. I remember a couple of years ago, BigCommerce was was an up-and-coming platform and never really struck my fancy. But lately, I think it's a really good platform. It's probably at the moment one of my favorites. Because it kind of mixes between Shopify and Magento, or even going from Magento up to like a Salesforce or something like that. It's semi-customizable, but it's kind of it's got good support. It's quite scalable, and it's good for startups and scale-up businesses. It also has, like, in the region, for people that want to go multi-region, you can set up different pages, different pricing points, which with Shopify can be a bit of a challenge. Not impossible, but can be a challenge. So between Magento and BigCommerce, if you're going to go multi-region in the GCC, if you're just in one region and need to go quickly, Shopify. But yes, what I would highly recommend is get some advice on it, and remember, not one solution will absolutely solve all your wants. Just choose the one that's best for your budget and scalable. But yes, those are my three: Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce.
All right, so three good options, and I guess it really depends. You have pros and cons on all of them. But if I need to put you against the wall and hold you to a gun, I hold a gun to your head, and you need to choose one, which one would that be?
For me, I would probably go with BigCommerce in terms of if I'm trying to build a large, high volume, because it's the most scalable. That's still got some good support structures in it.
All right.
Or if I'm not going to go large and just have a more side hustle type of job, Shopify would be my go-to.
Good. Interesting stuff to hear, and hopefully, but obviously, always do your own research to make sure you find the suitable platform for yourself. So let's say we choose our platform. We got the site up and running. We've populated with some nice content, some nice products. We are ready to start selling our products. And if this was 30, 40 years ago and we opened up the store, probably we would do some local advertising in the local newspaper. Maybe we push out some...
Good old days.
The good old days. Maybe we went in the neighborhood. We put some pamphlets in the... inside the doors. Those days are long gone, you can argue. So where do we start? Like, how do we start moving our products or services? How do we start selling them? How do we get people inside the store, basically?
That's always the challenging question. Now that you've started, you open the doors, will they come?
Yeah.
Is the challenge, right? So first I would say is that you really need to understand your market. And where are they, to be able to first answer that question. Like you mentioned, flyers. In some of the e-commerce businesses I've been involved with, flyers have actually worked very well. So, for example, in a pet e-commerce business in South Africa, we were pure play e-commerce, but flyers was a very effective role because it's when the person's at home and getting a flyer about their dog. It actually worked very well, even for e-commerce, but that's more traditional, not very eco-friendly. So there are other options there, but understand who your customers are. If you've got some research that helps. If you don't, make assumptions and start from there. But so for me, I do quite like if you've got budget, is to go with paid media because you can reach a large set of audience with paid media, and social media is a good starting point there. A GCC study done by MasterCard showed that, what's the numbers here, between 70% and 56% of consumers in the GCC respectively on Facebook, 70%, 56% on Instagram, found a product or service through social media. Wow. And because of it's got one of the highest penetrations in the world in UAE specifically, but in the GCC, where in the UAE it's 90% of people are on social media. So your client is there. Right. It's not necessarily a cheap platform, a very easy platform to maximize, but if you want to reach on your audiences, I think paid media. Then obviously your Google Ads is very powerful, especially for intent driven. And if you've got a product that people understand already, then Google is a great product. But it also does cost a bit of money. So if you've got that money, that's where to go. If you don't have the budgets, friends and family, always, even if you do have the budgets, start there. Your friends and family are the ones who will support you the most. Ask for help. Ask them to review your products. Get them to ask their friends, give them referral codes, give them family and friends discounts, because the more you get your services out there, and that will give you some cash to start out with, and then you can start investing in ads and things like that. And then the other one, I guess, it would be partnerships. So if you have a low budget, partnerships is going to be your biggest win. Yeah. If you can, it's not easy, but it will give you a good result if you can partner with a a non-competing brand or a brand that can that is complementary and has a database or a social media following or something like that. It will bring trust to your brand because you're new. People need to understand you, because the big thing about e-commerce is trust. Worldwide, it's one of the things. So having a partner that you can leverage off to grow your brand in the starting days is probably your most powerful one on low budgets.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. What about SEO and driving organic traffic? Is that a vital part from e-commerce, do you think?
SEO is an exceptionally vital part of e-commerce, and almost everyone I speak to, including myself when I was growing e-commerce brands, I probably kicked myself for not focusing on SEO from the start as much. But if you are setting up a new site, I would highly recommend that you get an SEO specialist to help you with the setup, the structure, which platform. They can also advise you on for certain subfolders and country folders and things like that, which come into play. So yes, SEO is key. It's something, if you don't have the skills in-house, is to outsource it, but you do need SEO, and it's something that you invest now and then it pays dividends in 6 months, 12 months, years to come. So the sooner you invest in it, the sooner it will give you dividends, and it does take time, and it's going to be your most cost-effective channel in the future. So invest in SEO up front early, get an understanding of it, outsource if you can.
And the dividends just keeps increasing, right? It's like you're leveraging. Exactly. I usually say SEO is Warren Buffett's favorite play when it comes to digital marketing because you invest now but reap the benefits later.
Yeah. And it just starts compounding later on down the line. Absolutely.
So that's interesting. So we have a lot of different, let's say, sources of traffic, and at the end of the day, all of them comes at a cost. Regardless if you pay media to Google or Facebook, you pay a specialist to help you with content, you spend your time to work with partnerships. So to be successful in the long term, I guess it's also about how you monetize your existing customers that you get inside the door by making them happy, recurring advocates and customers. How would you say, how important is it to work on a retention strategy or work with email marketing with your entire database in order to actually leverage your advertising budget and growth overall?
So for me, I think this is one of the key missed opportunities in e-commerce. I think in the past, especially before like Amazon and those type of ones when they started, they were just on pure acquisition. Now, acquisition is highly important, absolutely, but why fill up the bucket, the leaky bucket analogy that's often there. When you've got the customers who are supporting you, why not keep them happy? And there was Shopify mentioned a study that loyal customers increase customer worth by 22 times.
Well, that is a lot.
So
can we get that reference somewhere?
22 times, yeah. And it costs less to sell to loyal customers, and so basically from a customer acquisition you'll expect between 25 and 20% profitability. From a returning customer over time it's 60 to 70% profitability. So why are we not focusing on the customers we have already and keeping them happy and things like that? So especially when you can from the start, you do need to get acquisition, but really focus on ways to keep them retained, keep them happy.
Which makes sense, right? Because it's going to cost you more to buy a new customer than to retain your existing one. Yeah. And also that the returning customer becomes an ambassador in some extent for your e-commerce as well.
Absolutely, and that's also a very cheap way of acquiring new customers is if you create ambassadors by giving your customers a good customer experience. They will tell their friends. It costs you nothing, costs them nothing. It really does fuel your fire a lot more.
So making sure that you have systems in place to communicate with your existing audience, whether it's through emails or SMS or WhatsApp, etc.
Yeah. So paid media is definitely more like top of funnel, and you can do some communication and building brand and keeping people engaged with your brand. But a communication channel like your email that you talk about, email in this region, when we did an e-commerce study at the end of 2022, 70% of customers in the UAE specifically want communication via email, and that's their preferred channel. Funny enough, I know that people say email is dead. That is really not the case. I haven't seen it in any business that I've been in the last 10 years, and it still keeps getting stronger and stronger. But with that, you need to make sure that you get the customer data, keep it clean, be respectful when you communicate with them. Don't only offer them sales. That's based on this retention strategy.
Yeah.
Add value. When you send out an email, that is an opportunity to speak to your customers. Make sure you're adding value, not just asking them to make a purchase.
Okay, very interesting. So we're moving from getting traffic, retaining them, which leads us to marketing automation and ways of communicating. And I don't want to stick there or stay there too long, but obviously marketing automation can be for many people, it's so much. Where do I start? It's going to be expensive, which it surely can be. But for a startup, new e-commerce that wants to tap the feet in the water in the world of marketing automation, do you have any tips on maybe tools or systems they could use that doesn't require loads of investment or loads of time to get started?
Marketing automation is a good topic because there are some tools that you can use, and they're not that expensive. So there's things like HubSpot. You get some free credits there in terms of users and things like that. It sometimes can be a bit of a challenging one for a young e-commerce to scale, but it's a really good tool. There's ActiveCampaign, which is a bit more of a cost-effective type of tool. Then there's MailChimp, which is an all-time favorite. They've got basic automations that you can work with. You can also use multiple of tools to try and lower your costs. It just takes a bit of a learning curve. So you can use the connectors that we use.
Zapier.
Thank you very much. So you can utilize Zapier to automate a few things from different systems to lower your costs and things like that. But I think automation is a very good tool to understand early on, because that can save you a lot of time. And when you're looking at personalization and loyalty generating, because you can use this to segment your customers quite well. So yes, I would invest in automations and understand it early on.
All right, but as we understand, there are ways of doing this without burning too deep down into the cash. That's some good advice. But so we now have our e-commerce set up. We have the products listed. We have our traffic coming in. We set up some automation. Obviously, I need to facilitate payments. And when I moved down to Dubai to 2014, it was all about COD, cash on delivery. Was a very big thing. And I don't remember exactly how much, but it was almost like 50-60% of the payments were done with cash on delivery. Yeah. And is that enough today? I mean, what do you need to consider when you set up your payment infrastructure on your e-commerce today?
So it's a very key thing to think of. So you want to create this frictionless journey for your customers. So in this region, cash on delivery is still a thing. It's less so in Dubai or in the UAE. It is still there, but in other regions, it's still a very big
like
big
Saudi,
concept. Like Saudi and Iraq. Those are very cash heavy. Businesses and paying online is not quite there yet. So I would make sure that you facilitate as much as you can. The more payment options you have for your customer, the more chance you've got them to convert. So you just have to weigh up what you can manage, but give them more options. So definitely take credit cards. That's something that the market is moving towards. And Visa, MasterCard, if you just keep those ones, that will cover most of your worries from online payment. Then you can go with certain tools like Teller, which will also give you where you can send a link via WhatsApp and they can pay, and there's various other good options out there at the moment. Then things like buy now, pay later is growing huge amounts in this region, and it also helps you to increase your average order value. It appeals to a wider audience that might not afford it. It lowers the price barrier. So buy now, pay later is a really good one. And I did mention about Shopify. Keep that in mind with your payments as well. So when you're choosing your platform, because you will have to go with one of these payment providers, and if you are on a Shopify site, you will be in for the Shopify transaction fee. So that may be 1-2% or 0.5%. I think is where it starts, plus the 3% of the ad. So
what do you think I should? How much do you think I should consider paying in transaction fee when I?
Look, that's a very hard one. You have to just, it really depends on a number of factors with the payment provider. In generally, it's about 2.5 to 3.5%. When you're going into buy now, pay later, it's a bit more, 4-5%. Then you must remember again Shopify fee of 0.5 up to 2%.
So it adds up.
Yeah, it adds up. So you have to think about your product pricing as well as what payment offering and get a cost of what that's going to be. But yeah, offer as much. Try and do COD. But the more options you give your customers, the more conversion there might be.
So flexibility is key, and trying to create this frictionless journey, I guess.
Customer experience is everything, right? If you can beat your competitors on customer experience, you will have a winning formula.
All right, perfect. So moving on to the next question, and it's an important one. So obviously we're just covering a few elements that you need to start doing when you launch your e-commerce. And most of the times, I would say probably the majority of e-commerces that are starting up is one-man bands, people that wants to do their own business. And when we look at scaling up your business, one way of doing that is obviously to get help, outsourcing some of the things, insourcing part of the elements. And what do you think are things that are easy to outsource, and what are things that might be important to be able to do in-house as an e-commerce player?
Sure. It's a challenging question. It's a good one though. So depends on your own skill set. So first look at what you can do, and then try and get help for what you know you're not good at, and then you have to also weigh up the cost of that. But things I quite like when I'm starting out in e-commerce business to keep in-house are things like product management. When you set up your store, do your own product copy, put your own images, conversion rate optimization type of stuff, because if you're not haven't got a large traffic, then conversion rate optimization is not really a key point yet until you get over 1,000 users. If you've got a knack for design, do that in-house first. Also organic social media, I quite like to keep in-house to start off with, because it's not going to get you the conversion results now, but it's also really good to connect with your community, do the community management so you understand what the questions that your customers are asking and what the concerns are, what the ads are saying, those type of things. So do that in-house, and then you can either insource that or get a third-party partner to help you with that, but that's always good to do yourself. Email marketing, I think when your time, especially if you're starting out and you're full-time on the project, email marketing is a good one to do yourself, because you've now time-rich, so you can write out these emails quite well. And then graphic design, I've mentioned, rather outsource that if you don't have the skill set, or get a graphic designer to give you the templates and learn and do it yourself. That can save you a bit of cost for the start. Yeah.
And outsourcing doesn't necessarily need to be working with an agency. It's also can be working with freelancers on Fiverr, Upwork, or in the community.
Those are good platforms. Outsourcing is, you will have to outsource some things over time. An agency can help you, but freelancers are also good. As you say, these other platforms where you can get someone cheap.
Do you happen to know any good agency in the region that could help out with these things?
Ooh, only the best region, the marketing award-winning one, in Home of Performance.
All right, thank you very much.
Check us out. Yeah.
That's good tips, and I think outsourcing is good in the sense that it helps you move faster. But also it doesn't need to be very expensive.
No.
And also what ends up being very expensive, in my own experience, is when I try to do things I have no idea how to do.
Exactly, yeah.
Because then you end up doing mistakes, you need to do it all over again. So sometimes paying that kind of premium in the beginning might actually save you money at the end, basically.
Yeah, it comes down to that self-awareness thing, especially as an entrepreneur. You have to be optimistic, yes, but you also need to be a bit self-aware. Yep. Do what you're good at, and or what you know you can learn to be good at. Anything that you don't really love or don't really care, look for an outsourced partner, be it freelancer, be it an agency.
All right.
Things like SEO, e-commerce strategy, those type of things. If it's not your forte, find help. Could be a friend as well, family.
All right, that's very interesting information from you, Warren. And we're closing up the end of these queries before we move into our final segment of this podcast. And the last question I have for you is something that is close to my heart. Delivery free or no? How do you think about that? Because obviously it's kind of this moment that creates friction, and everyone expects to get free delivery, even though most actually charge for it in somehow.
Yes, it's close to your heart. It's close to everyone's heart. So, free delivery is an interesting topic, and it's quite a complex one. But basically, free delivery you need to offer. You need to offer free delivery. Now, it doesn't mean it needs to be at no minimum charge, but you need to look at the market. Like in Dubai, like this 100 dirhams free delivery market. It's good, but depending on your product and your service, but you do need to have a relatively achievable free delivery mark.
Like a threshold.
A threshold, yes. And a lot of people say, okay, well, free delivery is important, and all the surveys show it's the most important consideration for consumers. Don't give free delivery away for free. utilize. It's such a powerful thing. If you think Amazon Prime, you get free delivery, but you don't get it without being a Prime member because it's such a powerful thing.
And if you become a Prime member, it's almost impossible to not stay a Prime member.
Because of the free delivery is the main thing, right?
Because it's impossible to cancel. I don't understand how to do it.
No, also a good point. Yeah. So free delivery, definitely. Look at it and then use free delivery on for campaign-based, like today only free delivery, but definitely make it achievable for your consumer based on your price points and things like that. Seek some advice on this and don't give free delivery away for free without some sort of loyalty buy-in from the customer.
Very good point. So I think we've covered a lot of interesting things. Obviously, there's so much more to cover, and maybe we'll come back to this subject in another podcast. If you have any other tips and tricks you want to share with all the listeners, please feel free to share them in the comments or send them in. We'll be happy to hear them.
Please,
now, the closing segment of our HOPCAST is a very interesting one. So we're going to end each HOPCAST with something we call the HOPCAST Brain Bender.
Sure, I'm a bit nervous about this.
I understand you are. So the HOP Brain Bender is a very simple theme. We will ask you questions that you need to answer, but it's a quiz format, so I think it's difficult to say if there's a right or wrong answer. Okay. You give it your best shot.
I'll give it my best shot. I like that there's no right or wrong.
Yes, don't look at here. And I will, of course, give you the right answer once you have successfully not been able to answer them correctly. So, the first one, question one. Why did the customer leave their cart full but unattended?
Because the baby was crying?
That is incorrect. They were just practicing window shopping on the internet.
Okay.
On the line.
Sure.
Okay, next question.
These dad jokes, that's what we're going with.
Why did the online shopper become an archaeologist? Archaeologist. Yes.
Archaeologist.
Thank you so much.
Why did the
online shopper become
an
that?
archaeologist?
Yes.
Archaeologist. Have no idea, actually. That's okay.
They loved digging up old deals in the clearance section.
Oof, that's terrible.
Moving on to the next one. Why did the e-commerce website go to therapy?
I have no idea again.
All right. It had too many checkout issues and needed some retail therapy.
I could do some retail therapy after this.
Moving on to the next one. Why did the e-commerce website break up with the credit card? Ooh, a sensitive one.
Yeah. I don't know. You couldn't stripe right?
It couldn't handle the commitment of a long-term transaction. Moving on to the last one in the Brain Bender. And as you can understand, the level is high today. Why did the e-commerce site server go on vacation?
No, because it was running away?
It needed a timeout after dealing with all those website visits. And I think that's
probably about the best one there out of that.
Yes, that's a good one. So thank you very much for answering as good as you could. 0 points.
Literally 0.
I hope all of you got some good learnings. As I said, give your comments, give your points, tips and tricks. And if you have any ideas of what we're going to take up in the next HOPCAST, feel free to share those as well. Thank you very much, Warren, for enlightening us today.
Thank you. Yeah, and then reach out if you've got any questions on any other content. We're happy to share our thoughts and any resources that we want. Yeah. Look forward to hearing you on the next one or seeing you on the next one.
All right. Goodbye.
Cool. See everyone.